can't remember ever getting a satisfying answer to the most important question of all. What's the meaning of life? I asked my fellow students, but they were more occupied with TikTok trends and football. I asked my teachers, and they said whatever you want it to be. I asked the internet, and it gave me similar answers. Whenever I asked people, I always got underwhelming answers. They all either said, I don't know, or anyway, watch this funny short. So I felt very lonely in this experience and turned to nature, because everything in the human world was void for me. The bad was obviously miserable, like school and work, but the good was just as meaningless. So I found solace in music and then looked into nature. You see, a butterfly starts out as a larvae, and then it forms a cocoon and morphs into a beautiful butterfly, i.e. its true self, which then goes on to pollinate all kinds of plants, i.e. feeding, connecting, expanding and evolving the life and consciousness around it, and reproduces, i.e. continuing the cycle of life. And when it dies, it goes into the earth and becomes nutrition for the cycle of life to continue yet again. So nature already gives us all the answers. I remember Jim Rohn once said that happiness lies not in what you have, but what you become. And the life of a butterfly is all about becoming its true self by morphing from a larvae into the butterfly, which is its true form. So the meaning of life, after all the years of reflection I've made, really comes down to this definition. What excites you, what your passion, attention and energy is naturally drawn to, is connected to your meaning and purpose in life. Fundamentally, I found this always seems to be some form of creating, connecting, contributing, experiencing, growing through challenge and becoming your truest and highest self, i.e. individualizing. Just as an example, what has always excited me was to get the world of my imagination out into the world through my writing and presenting my stories or ideas to other people. That way I can create books, share those with the world and hence contribute to humanity. I can connect with people in real life talking about those stories. I can experience this flow state of being fully immersed in writing a book. And I can grow through the challenges a writer faces, such as staying consistent when it's difficult or getting your book in front of the right people. And on the note of growing through difficulty, I'd like to share two more things with you. First of all, there was a period of my life back in high school that I called my Great Depression. So I was questioning the meaning of life and what we're all doing here, because we're basically naked apes paying money to buy clothes, going into this box of a classroom each day to study numbers and make analysis. And I really began questioning what for. I never truly found a satisfying answer to this question, and at the time I was desperate, asking everybody about the meaning of life, all just to realize that no one actually thought about it the way I did. But out of the place of loneliness, I began looking within, and intuitively I went after everything that brought me joy and that excited me. Music, dancing, creating art, making other people laugh, etc. And now after all those years I look back, and as Sigmund Freud said, one day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Because if it weren't for that struggle, I would have never thought about life that deeply and thoroughly and discovered my now clear understanding of what life's all about. Cliff Ennico has another analogy that explains this well. And after that, I get to the second thing. The life of a pearl begins when a stubborn grain of sand clings to a shell and doesn't let go. And through the waves of hardship over time, it forms into a beautiful pearl. So it is often through this difficulty and struggle that you become your true self. But not all challenge is associated with suffering, and most of it doesn't need to be. For example, I'm now writing my first ever self-published book, and that is hard, but it's not connected to suffering, but joy. So let me share the first chapter out of my book with you, which is that second thing I wanted to show you from earlier. Here we go. Chapter 1. The last remains are fading. Have you ever had those very distant yet very fond memories but you can't exactly remember what happened or what you said, but you still know vividly how it felt like? You know, I used to be a local star in my class and school for the stories I used to write and tell. And as I poured out my heart and soul presenting my freshly written stories to the class, everyone was listening with their eyes locked in place, imagining the scenes and their ears sharp and attentive like a cat on the hunt. After I finished reading those 5 whole pages, that one guy would always say, "That wasn't 5 pages, was it?" Because time had raced by so quickly. Oh man, good old times, I tell ya. So I can tell you how I felt and how I read those stories. But if you ask me to recall what even a single one was about, I couldn't do it. You know, the last days I was searching through my old exercise books where I used to write my stories in, but I couldn't find them anymore. Why didn't I make sure I saved and stored all of my stories when moving schools? These are the questions that sometimes creep up on me when I think about my old stories that I probably never hold in my hands again. But then again, you and I share the memories about them and can create new ones just like them. Maybe we don't need to remember all the details. Maybe the emotions and the spirits are what stick with us for a reason. Because all the material things, like my old exercise books or the very place I live in right now, they will all pass sooner or later. And when we leave this world behind at the end of our lives, the only things we're truly left with are the experiences and emotions we lived. I want to share one last memory with you before we go into the next chapter and continue our journey. As a child, when I was in the shower, I always used to think about my own death and the death of everything in the universe. I don't know about you, but whenever I thought of death as the vanishing of all energy and color of life, I felt like I gulped this heavy ghost of a weight down my throat and into my chest, as if death itself had just entered my body and placed itself on top of my heart. And one day I froze, looking at the water trickling down my feet, having the thought of death in my chest, and slowly I came to a conclusion. We don't know for sure what comes after death, but we're all gonna find out one day. The only thing we can do until then is to make sure we make the very best and most of life right now, while we're still alive and living. So that when death finds us each on our faithful days, it better find us all lovingly and wildly alive. So to all of you back home, go after all the passions and curiosities that excite you, with the people that excite you, right here and right now, as much as you possibly can. Alright, that was my first chapter, everybody. This style is what I call narrative conversation. So in the book, I speak to you, the reader, as if I was having a one-on-one conversation with an intimate friend, sharing real-life stories and experiences and thoughts with you that may help you discover and fulfill your own meaning in life. If you like this first chapter and want to get the full book for free once it comes out, I will send it to all my newsletter subscribers only during the first week of launch. It's completely free to sign up, and you can find the link to it on my channel's About page. Now I'm very curious about you. What do you think is the meaning of life? Did this video give you any ideas that you will try out? And what excites you most and makes you feel most alive? I'm looking forward to seeing your takes and stories in the comments below. And whatever your path may be, I wish you all the joy and livelihood on your journey of discovering and unfolding your meaning in life.